Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me on this morning talk. So today I wanted to, it's kind of more of a speculation. I'm not saying I believe this theory, but there's some credence to it you could give, I guess. It's definitely interesting. What I'm talking about is, so I watched this video the other day, and it was this lady, and I've seen her on some of my favorite podcasts that deal with like NDEs and like, you know, just spiritual things, different types of like subjects. And anyways, this lady, she's able to regularly astral project, you know, do out of body work. She does it on a regular basis. She's been doing it for a long time. Kind of similar to Darius J. Wright, if you've heard of him. You know, he's somebody that has regularly been doing out of OBE since he was like 14. And like mapping the other side of the veil and such. So this lady's been doing that too. And I thought it was interesting because she said this, you know, she's explaining how, you know, the different layers of reality or of the matrix, so to speak, you know, and different layers of dimensions and stuff, how you can like travel through those when you're in the out of body state. And she said recently she was, you know, doing her normal thing, her traveling, her kind of mapping of the other side. And she says that she knows a way that you kind of go into the layer in between like this realm and like the next realm. And when you're in that realm, she said it's like kind of like a computer system, and you can actually directly affect things in your life through manifestation, by going into that realm, because it's like you're kind of like plugged into the mainframe, so to speak, metaphysically speaking. And anyway, she said, so this recent time she went there, she said she noticed something odd. She never said every time she's ever gone to this particular, you know, part of the outer matrix, she's never really, you know, run into like particular entities or felt them in that area. She's felt them in other layers of the matrix and, you know, other dimensional layers and stuff, but not in this one. And said it was odd because all of a sudden she felt like she was being watched. And she was looking all around and trying to figure out what it was. And next thing she knows, she sees this like giant claw. And then she sees like a scale. And she says like when you're in that state and you're in the out of body state, your consciousness can like, you can basically do what you want with your consciousness. You can expand it as big or small as you want. So she decided to try to see what this weird thing, this reptilian thing she was seeing was. So she pulled her awareness, her consciousness outward and looked at it like from a, you know, like on a large scale essentially. And she says that it was the oddest thing she'd ever seen in this experience. That these experiences she normally does, it was like this giant dragon looking thing, like this. She said it was almost more like the dragons that the Chinese show when they do their, you know, their festivals, you know, when it's the year of the dragon and such. And it's not like the dragon we think of like maybe like in the Western culture, you know, like kind of similar. Like if you remember like the old Dragonlance books and, you know, stuff like that, Lord of the Rings, right? Well, she was saying it was more shaped like the long, elongated, almost like snake-like, feathered serpent-like style of the dragon that's portrayed in Chinese culture. And she said this thing was like wrapped around the earth. And so she started like looking at it and like analyzing it and feeling for energy and intention and other, because when you're in the out of body state, your consciousness is like immortal. You're a God spirit at that point, and you're out of the confines of the body. So you have powers you don't normally have. So you can feel and see into others' minds and all this. So anyway, she's observing this thing, trying to get it filling of its energy, of its intentions and everything. And she gets the sense that this thing is like feeding on the earth, that like earth is like its property, and that this thing uses the earth like as an energy source, a food source, like it feeds on energy. And so she starts later on, after she goes back to her body and everything, she starts doing research on this thing, trying to figure out what it is. And she comes across the Nag Hammadi scriptures. There's the book, The Origin of Creation, and it talks about this character called Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge, that essentially rules Earth, the Earth plane, as a god that thinks it's the only god. It's a jealous god. Oftentimes, the Gnostics will equate Yaldabaoth with Yahweh. That the jealous god of this realm that pretends to be the creator of all, but he's not. He's dimensionally speaking, he's a lower dimensional entity, but a very powerful one, and that sets himself up as God, but he's a liar and a deceiver, and of course this Yaldabaoth, he rules Earth through his angels and through his they're called archons that basically manage the Earth and help rule it. And essentially the Gnostics talk about like how the Earth is set up as like a reincarnation trap, or like a cycle. Like it entices spirits into this realm, and when spirits come into this realm to experience it, they get trapped into a reincarnation cycle where they incarnate into the human body, but yet when they die, instead of going back to source or leaving this realm, they get tricked, or at least the system's designed to send them back into the system, and you're reborn into a new body. And then by doing this, essentially, you're being fed on by the archons and by Yaldabaoth. Energetically, they feed on your emotions, your thoughts, your energy, your actions, like anything that produces like higher levels of energy, they feed on it. And so this is like if you've never read the Nag Hammadi scriptures, folks, it's really amazing book. It's also got the mystic teachers of Yeshua, not the religious teachings of Yeshua, where literally Yeshua is teaching us reincarnation, and he teaches us that we are God, godlings, I guess you could call it, like sparks of creation, of God, of source energy, experiencing this realm, this lower dimension through the human body, but yet that we are immortal spirits directly connected to the creator of all. And of course, it talks about how Yeshua comes to earth to free humanity from the grip of Yaldabaoth, the Demiurge, and his minions, trying to teach us the highest order in the universe, and the highest power is love, the highest vibration, right? And so that's just kind of a real quick breakdown of the teachings, a lot of the teachings in the Nag Hammadi and such. So if you've never read them, folks, you got to read it. I mean, it's really amazing. And what it makes you realize is that, Yeshua was this master mystic teacher, and, and he was connected with the Essenes, and he was also connected with the mystery school teachings of Egypt. And it alludes to the teachings that he picked up traveling the world with his rich uncle merchant, Joseph of Arimathea, right? Who was a worldwide merchant. He had caravans that traded on the Silk Road, and he had ships that traveled all the way up to the British Isles, all along the coast, right, of France, and all, through the Mediterranean, and that he was, rich, and Yeshua was actually came from a rich family, and he was able to travel the world and study with all of these religious and mystic teachers all around the world, including the Druids in France and stuff. So, really interesting stuff. You'll find a lot of interesting stuff in the Nag Hammadi. I've talked about it many times. I've talked about the Gnostic teachings and why they destroyed the Gnostic teachings and such. They were dangerous, right? The Christian church was at war with the Gnostics at one time during the early years of the church, and they were trying to ban all their books, burn them all, and hunt these people down. Like the religion of peace, right? We're always told Islam's a religion of peace. Well, yeah, Christianity's a religion of peace too. Yeah, not back in the days it wasn't, folks. It was an arm of the Roman Catholic, the Roman power structure, which became the Roman Catholic Church, or the Holy Roman Empire. Sorry, folks. Became eventually the Holy Roman Empire. It was essentially the sword in one hand and the cross in the other hand, and you either accept it or you are, taken out, so to speak, right? And they did it wherever they went around the world. The conquistadors carried on the sword and the cross. And of course we know the Inquisitions and the destruction of the Druids, right? That's on and on and on. Look, folks, it's never been a religion of peace, okay? It's a joke. And it's an abomination of what Yeshua's true teachings were. If you read the Nag Hammadi scriptures and you see the teachings of Yeshua from a different lens, then you'll get where I'm talking about. If you'll never read it because you've been told it's blasphemous, then you're never going to learn anything. So you're going to be stuck in that black cube of Saturn, which is the Abrahamic faith, which is lies and deception to limit the spirit, while it's also limited in the human capacity. So, anyways, I was thinking a lot about this lady's, what she was talking about, and it's really interesting because when you really look at this earth and you really examine it, you realize that everything eats everything. And when something's dying or being preyed upon, or it's in fear, it puts up a great amount of energy. And we all know what the Elites, right? The elites, the Elites, the Godites, right? The children of the Anunnaki, the blood human children of the Anunnaki, that is. We all know what they enjoy, right? That certain substance in the blood that's produced in blood that is extracted from people or children that have been put through massive fear, right? Monsters, Inc., the movie, kind of breaks that down in a childlike fashion, but it's truth there. And then, amazingly, Zoolander too. If you haven't watched the second Zoolander, they break it down too. I mean, they always have a way of hiding all this in plain sight, right? Through the movies. And we know who runs Hollywood. Who runs Hollywood, majority-wise. I'm talking the vast majority of the actors, the producers, the executives that run Hollywood. We all know who they are, right? They tell you to your face. So, it's interesting, though, because if you think about it, this world is designed that way. And what happens when the fear is strong? Well, these archons and this Yaldabaoth character, they feed on that energy. So if they're forcing us back into bodies, reincarnating souls, like this is a soul trap and reincarnation trap, then it would make sense that we're being farmed. Now, would that also make more sense why our world's designed predatory the way that it is, right? Why everything is designed to attack us, to dumb us down, to put us in a fear matrix. I mean, you put on the news and I think I seen like this study where it said like over 75% of the content in news, mainstream news media, is fear-induced or fear-based information, right? Or programming, you could say, right? So some real interesting things, and we understand what has been talked about, why wars happen, right? That they're grand sacrifices, right? Well, if the Elites are sacrificing human in wars and mass conflagrations, then who would it be to? Well, it could be to their lords that manage from, metaphysically speaking, from outside of our, physically outside of our realm, but metaphysically still part of this realm, the overlords of this realm, like on a different dimension or a different, like, vibratory level, right? Like what we would call demons and such, and the fallen angels, the Nephilim, and so on and so forth, right? So, I don't know, folks. I mean, isn't it weird how even in the Bible there's references to the dragon, right? The Behemoth. And look at the Enuma Elish, folks. Look at the Enuma Elish. What is Tiamat described as? This like massive dragon, right? Tiamat. The time and matter, Tiamat. And look, if you haven't read the Enuma Elish, I mean, come on, man. Get with the program, people. Bible's not all the truth you'll ever find. I know a lot of people seem to think that, but it's not true. The Bible is not ultimate truth, okay? There is truth in the Bible, but it's not ultimate truth, and it's not all of the truth, okay? In fact, these other ancient, the Bible's an amalgamation of the teachings of the ancient Egyptians, of the Sumerians, the Akkadians, of the Zoroastrians, and the Vedic, the Hindu Vedic text, the Sanskrit, which is all much older than the Bible, okay? So, it just think about this stuff, folks. It's all there. It's all in your face. I mean, it's always been in your face. But is it possible? That's why your Bible calls you sheep. That's why the Tal, the Tal ends with the D, right? The book of certain chosen ones on this earth. Isn't it interesting that in that book it calls us cattle, and that when their Messiah shows up, we'll all be slaves, and we'll all be basically cattle for the slaughter. I mean, geez, everywhere you look, folks. I mean, I don't know, man. That's why I said, it seems like it's a super far-fetched theory, but in a way, when you really think about it, my God, there's a lot of truth hiding in these ancient texts and in what some of these OBEers or astral travelers are talking about. I know it sounds odd, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Possible that some giant metaphysical dragon is literally holding the earth like its plaything wrapped around it, and that its minions that it created are ruling this earth, from behind the scenes, possibly outside of our limited sight capacity? And is it possible that the human body was designed to limit our senses so that we don't see these beings ruling us? Have you ever listened to people that do ayahuasca? Now, I've personally not done ayahuasca. I've thought about someday it would be very interesting to actually go to Peru and go to a real shaman and have it go through the process. They almost say it's almost like going through the mystery school teachings, like the OBE ceremonies that they did in Egypt. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know how close, I don't know if the Egyptians were using different plant herbs and stuff to do the same thing. I don't know how they did it with the sarcophagus. They would put people in a sarcophagus, and they had this whole ceremony, and for 3 days you'd spend in the sarcophagus, and somehow they were able to make people have OBEs. And they say that a lot of the Essenes would make pilgrimages to Egypt to do this. And in fact, John the Baptist, the three Marys, right? Magdalene and the mother and the sister Marys, they went with Yeshua to Egypt and went through these ceremonies because they were Essenes. So, and then you come back with those visions, those out-of-body experiences, right? And then when you're teaching this to people, they turn you into a deity because you got all this information about these other realms outside of the earth realm, right? It's kind of interesting, right? Is that what the basis of some of like these religions are from? I don't know. But it is interesting. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there. That people that do ayahuasca oftentimes talk about these entities that are standing all around them, right? Like I've listened to people that do it. And it's like, as soon as they like, what do they call that? Shooting through the hole or the tunnel or something. I can't remember what they call it. They say a lot of times you'll like, all of a sudden you're like looking at these entities like all around you. Are those the archons? Are they always all around us, managing this realm, feeding on us? Folks, I've talked about before, in videos I've done on energy work and stuff, I've talked about how it's obvious something does feed off our energy, okay? Have you ever been like in a fight with your wife, and you're both being stubborn, neither of you wants to back down, you're both right, and you just keep arguing and fighting and arguing, and you ever notice when you finally stop how drained you are? I mean, absolutely drained. Like something just came and sucked out your energy, and you both just kind of, one of you goes into the bedroom and lays down, the other one lays on the couch, and you're both drained afterwards. And I find that interesting. Could it be that these archons are coming in, and when all that emotional energy is being put out there, and that's a negative energy, which seems like they like the negative energy, right? Is it possible that these that they're feeding on that? Could be. It could be. Makes you wonder, folks. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, and I look, I don't want to think things are this negative, okay? I don't want this to be true. I like to tend to go with the NDE narrative, the more rainbows and puppy dogs version, right? Your dogs are waiting for you, your loved ones and your spirit guides, and Yeshua is waiting to, bring you home, and everything's like, fantastic on the other side, right? I mean, I'd like to think that that's how it really is, but I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, this world is designed, and we're attacked on all fronts all the time. Our governments are predatory. Our medical system's predatory. Our food system's predatory. Our education system's predatory. Our media's predatory. Everything in this realm is predatory. And everything seems to bring out or limit our God abilities, right? Our source-given abilities. Everything's designed to hold our consciousness to a low vibration. So it makes you wonder, folks. And look, I'm just giving you like a real quick glossed over, summary of a lot of the Gnostic writings. Obviously, the Gnostic Nag Hammadi goes really deep on a lot of subjects. It's like I said, folks. Like, look, go read it, man. I mean, you have some of the followers, the disciples of Yeshua, have books in the Nag Hammadi that are not in the Bible. Okay, these were all buried. The Nag Hammadi scriptures, I think it was 1950s where they were uncovered in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. They were buried and hidden so that the Roman Catholic Church or the Judean structure, power structure, the synagogues or whatever, the Pharisees or Sadducees couldn't find these writings and destroy them. They, because a lot of the Nag Hammadi is also like mystic, Jewish teaching or like Jewish teachings and stuff, like not quite Kabbalah, but you know what I mean. Like some of it's like, some of it's mystic stuff, like really early, Judean and Christian stuff. So I don't know. It's really interesting. It's worth looking into. God, I almost feel like we need to talk more about this. I mean, just that short, 20, 30-minute vid I did. I don't think this can really cover this subject. But I'm going to continue looking into this today, and I want to try to bring some extra context. But one more interesting thing before I go about that. It is interesting that in the Nag Hammadi, it describes Yaldabaoth as being this large, like, snake or worm, like, being with a lion's head. And it was interesting because when that lady was talking about the head of this dragon, it wasn't just like the, Lord of the Rings type dragon design. It was a little more like that, like I mentioned, right? Like the Chinese, but it was also interesting how the Chinese dragon has like almost like whiskers and stuff like a dragon, right? And its head's a little more rounded, right? Not as elongated. And that was how she described it. And it is interesting when you find ancient depictions of Yaldabaoth. It is a dragon's head with a like a serpent or like snake or they says like a big worm like type body. It's really weird. I swear to God, that's unless this lady read the Nag Hammadi and she's just like mind effing us all and making all this up. I have never heard Darius J. Wright talk about this stuff. However, the channel that I was watching, pretty popular channel, she was saying, or they were saying how they were going to try to maybe have her do, have her and Darius J. Wright do a commentary together, a video together, right? To kind of cross reference each other's experiences and everything. I think it was the Jeff Mara podcast, is I think where I seen it. But I've seen her on like Next Level Soul. I've seen her on a bunch of other Leak Project and all kinds of other like YouTube channels and stuff. So I know she makes the round, so she's pretty popular. I'm sorry, folks, I can't remember her name. She seems to be like Eastern European, possibly Russian or something, because she's got a real strong accent. Probably lady like in her like 50s. But anyways, I'll try to get you guys some more background on all that. But maybe we'll do a part 2 tomorrow on this. But I guess what are we going to call this? Is the Earth ruled by a Demiurge? Maybe we'll call it that, right? But I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. I'd like to hear what you guys got to say about this. Is this the dragon? Lucifer, that old dragon. Remember in the Bible that it talks about. Of course, we anybody that understands Revelation understands that that's also astrotheology. That there's a constellation called Draco, the dragon, and that there's a time where it's reaching for the foot of Virgo, the Virgin, right? The constellation, and that's all in. Where the dragon's trying to bruise or trying to grab the woman, right, while she's in travail with the child, right? Well, that's all astro theology, interwoven into the visions of Revelation. So, but it is interesting that this dragon keeps coming up, right? I don't know, folks. Just saying. And if you could say Mother Earth, well, if this dragon's wrapped around the Earth, then this thing could be, have a hold on the mother, right? So I don't know. It's a lot to think about. Anyways, guys, hey, I hope you love these conversations, okay? Like, look, these are informal. I'm doing them driving to work early in the morning. Sorry about the video quality because it's dark out. I get to work, around, 5:50 to 6 o'clock, and it's still dark out. So, but what my videos don't give you in quality and polished editing and stuff, hopefully they give you good conversations and things to think about and, things to debate and stuff. And so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, and make sure you guys are sharing the videos. We've been, it's really odd. It's almost like YouTube's doubling down on me now since I have my Facebook Exit the Matrix page back, and now I can use my links to send new viewers to my videos. The video I dropped yesterday got like 7 views, which I've never had a video get that little of reach. And that was with the links and everything. So that was odd. Now, it was a pretty touchy subject for people on the left and the right. It was titled "Tyranny Always Comes from the Far Left and the Far Right." Right? I mean, so it's real, it's right. But I think that's why, because most people are polarized to the far left or the far right. So whenever they see that, they think it's some kind of new age propaganda or something, and they're not even going to look at it, right? So whatever. But some of the other videos have been getting bumps in viewership because of having my page back, and I think that's only going to build momentum. So, but you guys can help by just liking the videos, commenting, just even if like you agree with me, you don't agree with me, what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear them, folks, because I'll tell you what, the hardcore Exit the Matrix followers on YouTube and Facebook are like some of the greatest minds. I mean, I love your comments, and I do read lots of comments. I always follow up with the comments on YouTube. For anybody that ever comments under my stuff, you guys know that, right? On Facebook, I can't always, because I mean, you're talking about thousands of comments a day. I do peruse through them still, but on YouTube, it's not as much, so I can actually go through every single comment. So anyways, guys, hey, as things start ramping up here, I'm going to get real busy. I'm just being honest. I'm going to be doing more podcasts again. I'm already getting invites because I popped back up on the radar from other like channels and pages and stuff. And so doing the one-on-one Zooms is going to start getting a little tighter here, but I'm still going to try to carve out at least time for one or two of those a day going forward. So, and there may be days I might not be able to do any at all. You know, my kid's getting ready, school starting. He's a senior. He's a track star. So I'll be going to track meets. And so there'll be, you know, days where literally I get off work and I head up to other towns to go see his track meets, and I get home late. So, anyways, guys, hey, I appreciate you guys. If you're interested in the Zooms and how to connect with me on those, and now you can get with me on Messenger on Exit the Matrix too. So if you need to get a hold of me, that's a great place to send me a message, or you can do it in the comments here. And anyways, the details are in the description. So hey, guys, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Have a great day.